Hello, and thank you for joining us today. We'd like to welcome you to our World Leaders webcast. And this is the next session in our sales discussion series entitled How to Select Sales Training for Your B2B Sales Team. And previous recordings, on different topics are stored in our Knowledge Center at worldleadersales.com if you're interested. But today's conversation is going to be about sales training for your B2B team and how to select the best providers. So my name is Krista Gagliardi, and I'm an outsourced recruiting manager with World Leaders, and I'm here with Joe Marone, the co-founder and B2B technology sales researcher and strategist for World Leaders Inc. He is the lead sales trainer of the Smart Sales Institute for B2B technology sales, co-author of the 5-star rated book, The Smart Sales Method for B2B technology sales teams, and an international B2B technology sales speaker. His guidance in implementing the right sales strategy, sales method, and developing sales skills has helped thousands of sales representatives in more than 120 B2B technology firms better differentiate, win more sales, and realize new growth. How are you today?
I'm well, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Let's just, jump right into it then. And
Sure.
before we even start looking into the different types of training courses out there, Joe, what are some of the preconditions prior to engaging in sales team training?
That's a very, very important question because we have to recognize what training will help your sales team and what salespeople are responsible for in the sales process or let's say for sales results, and what the company should be responsible for. So this slide here where it says strategy before tactics, let's say that if you look at the three areas, target market, positional message, and sales methods, these are the things that must be in place from the corporation before we try to train salespeople. So if you look at target market, you're going to see that the salesperson has to understand what are the geographies that they are best placed physically to serve. So who are they calling on? The second piece, which is many times gets diluted, is what are the industries within that geography where that salesperson or that company could be a top 3 provider. Not the ones that you wish or would like to be in, but the ones where you can actually be competitive and be a top provider. And then the third component as a precondition would be the size of the organization. Do you play well in small to medium businesses? Do you generally play well in enterprise? And when it's often overlooked is the targeted, what I call stakeholders or decision makers. Who is that salesperson selling to? If they're selling a technical product, are they selling to the business unit operational leader? Are they selling to the engineering level? We don't want them opening up calls as selling to procurement. So the first thing is, it's the company's responsibility to make sure that they're targeting the salesperson to the right market. And that's the first column. The second column is, what is the positional message, right? What is the message that describes the competitive or operational advantage that clients within your targeted market will acquire? And then what are the defendable articulation of why you're uniquely qualified to be a top 3 provider? Many times companies put that onto the salesperson. So if you listen to your salespeople talk today and you like what they're saying, great. But if you don't like what they're saying as far as how they're describing the company, no sales training is going to help with that. That's a corporate structure that has to be in place. And the last thing are what sales methodologies are in place. Methods for developing the pipeline, how a pipeline leads developed. Number 2, how business cases are developed. How does is that salesperson required to work with the customer to develop the business case? What are the templated questions? What's the methods that are used? When is sales engineering being brought in? Those kinds of things. And then last is, what is the model for closing? Do they quote and hope, or do they propose and close? So ideally, you want to have this in place before you try to train salespeople. This will simplify it much more, and you'll get more value out of that. Now, I recognize that many organizations don't have these things in place.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to our book, The Smart Sales Methods, on Amazon, that book is a 1-hour read. It's $19.95, and they can get the idea of what needs to go in place for their corporation. And I recommend doing that prior to sending your salespeople off to training.
Right. What do you see when someone sends their employees to a training before the target market positional message sales methods are established?
Sure. Here's a scenario, right? in every training class that I perform, I'll be talking to them and I'll ask a question and it'll be about their pipeline and I'll say, okay, if you were to look at your pipeline, who is the targeted decision maker that's going to make that decision? What is the business case and how do you build that and close? And 100% of them will say, I don't know. That's all over the place. Mm-hmm. So getting that in there, making sure that the salesperson is calling onto the right decision maker, that they're using the right message, and they're using the right process for building the business case and the right methods. Those are methods. What we're going to be talking about today is training skills or tactics to execute against those methods. Most organizations and frankly most training providers confuse those two.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, it does.
Sure.
I think important to remember the order strategy before tactics.
Yeah, that's the bottom line on this slide is the bottom line.
Right.
Strategy in place before tactics.
Okay, so now that we have all of that determined in our organization, what is the first step from there?
Sure. So the first step is to understand the strengths and liabilities of your salesperson, right? Understand by salesperson or by sales team what are their strengths, right? Because if they're working for you and they're in the field, they're going to have some strengths, and we want to teach them to better use those strengths, overuse those strengths, I say. But also, what are the specific liabilities, right? Are they having difficulty hunting or prospecting? Are they having difficulty with consultative selling? Are they having difficulty with presentations and closings? Are they having difficulty with account management? What are the difficulties, the skill degradations or skill gaps they're having? We'll see scenarios where they can't manage put-offs, they're elongating the sales cycle, they're not taking responsibility for their sales cycle. So using an assessment tool to assess the sales team, to decide what are the strengths and liabilities, and then pick training classes from there, not the other way around, right? Let's say you get a flyer or one of your sales reps shows you a brochure for sales training. That's the solution before the problem. Really evaluate the salesperson first, and then go and look at training providers, not the other way around. And my recommendation, and I hope to say this, is the Objective Management Group's salesperson evaluation tool. That can be done individually by person. They can come to our website and find that under our tab assessments, or and see that. But that's a great tool. It's $325 per person. It's something you can't afford not to do, and assess before you recommend, so that you know how to develop a training plan. What do you see? What are your thoughts?
Well, we use the third-party assessment tool in our recruiting practice when evaluating candidates. And one of the most important things that we look for is the trainability of that person. The assessment does point out how trainable and coachable a candidate is to determine whether their skills can be trained. And I'm sure you've seen scenarios in your classes where there's a non-trainable person in the class. What does that look like?
Sure. Let's just have a frank conversation. I believe in every organization there's a combination of salespeople, and the ones that are trainable in the class are going to be asking questions about how do I do this? I like that idea. Will it work for my customer? How do I do it? How do I do it? And that's a fun class to train, right? And it's a good class. Then you got the other ones that will say, no, this won't work. You don't understand my sales cycle. And you'll hear all day an 8-hour class of why this won't work. So the first thing that I see in trainability is what we call the responsibility level of the sales rep. Mm-hmm. And that is on a scale of 0 to 100. How accountable and responsible are they for their results? Are they blaming you, the employer? Are they blaming the economy? Are they blaming your product? Are they blaming the competitor? The reality is the only reason why salespeople lose deals is because they're outsold. And I'll say it again. The only reason why salespeople lose deals is because they're outsold. If you're in a viable company, and the folks listening to this webcast, you're running a company, your products have at least been sold 1 or 2 times before, or 1 or 2 years in existence. So there are customers buying that product at that price. So the reality is that either the sales rep has the ability to make the business case, get to the real decision makers, and make the deal work. Or skill gap there. And if there's a skill gap there, they have to admit it to themselves. They have to be open to wanting the training. So we see scenarios where when we assess sales teams and or salespeople, that they score as non-trainable or uncoachable. And frankly, I recommend not training those people.
Mm-hmm.
Look at other things to do with them.
Mm-hmm. What if, do you see scenarios where salespeople are in a training maybe to get motivated to perform? Is that really the right use of their time or the company's money that way?
Sure. Motivation is going to come. You spend a day in a class and you begin to see technique and skill development that are going to make you more prosperous. Your motivation should come up, and you should feel more motivated. And as a sales manager or a CEO, when they feel that you're a strong leader and that you're working with them on a daily basis, asking about their goals, what's their plan to get there, how we get there, that kind of motivation is what works. But if you look at the other way, where this person has none, and they're relying on the class to motivate them, that's a bad sign. Mm-hmm. Or if they're not motivated and they're coming to work late, they're dragging their heels, they're not making the reactions, and you can feel that lack of motivation. That goes beyond good sales management for the business owner, for the sales manager, but it also goes beyond an unrealistic expectation for the sales training class.
Right.
We want to further motivate people that really want to do better for their customer, want to do better for their company, they want to do better for themselves and their families. To try to instill that in someone is difficult to do. Right. And if you do it, it's going to last for a little while, but as soon as they lose a piece of business, or as soon as they begin feeling rejection from their customer, going through all the things that a salesperson goes through in a day, so much negativity, the motivation just goes away again. Mm-hmm. So it has to be there. Right.
And the great thing about the Objective Management Group's assessment is that it will point that out to you, and whether it's worth it to enroll that person in the class.
No question. Don't waste the time, and also recognize whether this person is part of your future. And let's say this. It isn't that salespeople that don't assess well are not good employees. Mm-hmm. They just might not belong in sales. Mm-hmm. Right? They might belong in an applications side of the business. They might belong in customer service. There's many good, smart people in a technical environment that their skills are better suited for customer service. So it might be a scenario of not firing these people, but just recognizing that they probably should not be on the front line handling new customers with all that pressure.
Mm-hmm. Right. So while we're on that topic then, Joe, how do we actually determine who in the organization should be trained?
Sure. So if you look at this graphic, I use the term all or nothing. And that might sound like a contradiction of what I just said. What I meant is that all client collaborating team members should be in good sales training, because in a B2B technology company, everyone sells, right? In 2017, in every company, everyone's selling. Everyone sells. So if they are interacting with the customer in a marketing position, where they're attending marketing events, they're writing blogs, they're writing newsletters, they're attending trade shows or doing teaching events, they should have sales training, sales skills, so they can convert that lead and develop and convert that lead and give it to a salesperson. So a marketing person should have it. Obviously, the inside salespeople or consultative salespeople should have new and better skills. So they should be going through your training, your typical salespeople, obviously. But sales application engineers or sales engineers or solution architects, probably the biggest missed opportunity is not training them in good sales training. I think the biggest fallacy that I hear when I first start working with a company is when we begin working with their engineers that are involved in quoting or involved in proposals that are meeting with customers is, why am I here? I'm not in sales. And that absolutely makes me understand why sales training is so important to them. They are in sales, right? If they're going to be presenting or working with a customer or interfacing in the competitive side of the sale, they're in sales. So they're in the consultative side. They have to develop a better business case. They have to be working with the sales team. They have to work with customers. They're more on the technical side, but they're still in sales. Customer service. If a customer service person has account responsibility and they're managing that account, being able to go higher and wider, upsell and cross-sell on that account is very, very important.
Right.
And obviously account managers. So the reality is that it's a missed opportunity if you don't look at your entire client-facing team and get them all looking at the same sales training so that there's a common language between them, that they all see it. And another important point is that if, let's say, you've got a sales engineer working alongside a salesperson and they're writing a proposal and they're going to present that proposal, if the sales engineer knows the responsibility that the salesperson must take on and that salesperson isn't doing it, he or she can coach him. So by having more people using the same knowledge, it creates sustainability and it creates internal coaching while using the same kind of training.
Right. How about buy-in from the top? How important is that, from the leadership of an organization?
Critical. Let's say that you're taking just one sales training class, and it's consultative selling. And in any good consultative selling class, it will dispel the idea that sales are all about relationships, right? We statistically know that the top 6% salespeople look at sales as very simple. Their job is to teach a customer how to improve that customer's business result, lead that customer through the evaluation process, create a business case, present and close the sale for the customer's behalf. And if that high-level sales manager or that company owner is still rooted in what I'll call antiquated techniques, and relationship selling is one of them, then you're going to have a difference of belief systems. And the higher level, the company owner or the high-level sales leader, it will prevail. Right? Within 30, 60, 90 days, all the training will be fine. Right? No one's going to go against their boss. They're not going to sell differently than the top of the organization sells.
Right.
So it is a top-down approach.
Okay. Okay. So when it comes to the actual content of the training, then what are the most important skill development areas?
Sure. I put this graph together because it gives an overview of the foundation at the bottom, and then it becomes more organized by discipline. So, and also you'll decide where to put certain people. So let's start off with the foundational skill, advanced B2B consultative selling. For better differentiating your offerings, gaining access to the right level of decision makers, developing a compelling business case, and closing effectively. That is I use the term foundational. I don't like that term because it would give the idea that it's a basic class. No, this is an advanced class for what all people, client-facing, need to know in 2017 to be competitive. The top 6% do this. So they open the call differently than the rest. Instead of talking about your product and how great you are, they're actually opening that call with challenging that customer or articulating a new way that customer can win more business, how that customer can improve business result. They're then working with gaining access to the right decision makers, and they're co-developing the business case with them, and setting up a time to present a proposal and ask for the sale. Very, very differently than what we'll say is the relationship building and quote and hope. Right? I love that quote and hope. So that's the first one, and all client-facing members should go there. Account penetration. This is different. This is for account managers. This is more for customer service folks. This could be for sales engineers that are dedicated to an account. But this is how to take that skill, the advanced skills, and use those skills to go higher in the organization, selling up higher in the organization and across wider multiple business units, and been able to cross-sell and upsell and gain more revenue. What we know is that organizations can grow 67% more revenue by simply selling more to the folks you've already sold to. Even the ones that are not happy with your skills, even the ones that fired you and cut the PO, going back to them with new technique, you're better off than going to the open market. Mm-hmm. So always account penetration is the second level. Lead generation is a very, very complex animal today. It's a very challenging idea of how leads are generated. Right? Is it cold calling? Is it taking customers to lunch? Is it webinars? Is it newsletters? What warm calls, cold calls? All of the idea of putting together a scheme or a repeatable approach for developing a bigger and more qualified pipeline. Mm-hmm. And generally, when we look at organizations today, the good number is 3 to 1, having a 3 times pipeline to the targeted business sales revenue objective for that month or year. And most organizations are very, I'll call it anemic. They don't have enough pipeline. Right. So being able to have sales reps that can build pipeline is the third skill. And the final skill is presenting and closing and increasing win probability and reducing sales cycle time. So there's 4 different classes there. There's some great matter between them, but the reality is those are the 4 areas where the opportunity to see real organizational change and to really see sales revenue growth in 20, 30, 40, 50, 100% growth by looking at those 4 core areas.
Right, and then so going back to the piece about assessing your team properly first, once you know which skills need to be improved on most, then you can pair the right person with the right class.
That's right. So looking at each of those classes, you can get an idea that maybe not every person needs to take every class. Mm-hmm. Based on their role in the company and also your perception of their weaknesses. You can target the people, the right person for the right classes.
Sure. So now that we know, Joe, what content we want, how do we go about evaluating sales training providers, since there are so many out there?
Yeah. This is a very, very easy question to answer. I'll just say that in every city, I'll use 3 different levels of training organizations. The first one's obvious. In every city, there's a significant number of retired or unemployed sales reps that think that they're training experts now. Mm-hmm. They've got 10, 20 years into it, and some of them have lost the will, and they're not doing as well. Some of them have been replaced by better talent. Some of them are just rooted in obsolescence and are in their thinking a certain way, and they've actually given up on trying to find a job. So they hang a shingle out and they want to do sales training or sales consulting. And you'll see in any city there's 50 or 60 of those people moving around. And basically they're trying to find a gig. Right? They're trying to find their next gig. And if you offer them a full-time job, they'll take it also. So beware of those. There's no statistical probability behind them. There's no research. They're going to teach you what they know. And that's not enough to go where you need to be in 2017. So I'll be very harsh on that. The second one is the franchise providers, the Miller Hyphens, the Sandlers, those folks that have offerings. And they're very good. And you're going to do well looking at those organizations. They're reputable. The ones that I would look at closely would be the Challenger sales model. Miller Hyman is a good one. There's some good models out there, and they're solid. Then there's the next level up, and this is where the sales skills or the experience and the accomplishments of the sales training organization is specific to your industry, mm-hmm. right? So now you're looking at, if you're in the B2B technology sales industry, where your salespeople are calling on a competitive organization, there's multiple decision makers, it's a complex solution, and there's 8 to 10 or 12 people in the sales cycle, none of which report to him or her, and they have to pull this whole thing together in a B2B technology environment. You really want an organization that has that kind of training. that's going to teach that specific training. Using generic training, a lot of this training is for retail environments, for how to get someone to buy more jewelry at the jewelry counter. Jeffrey Gitomer approach of how to win friends and influence people, Dale Carnegie. So the reality here is really want to look at the skills that are being trained. Are they training in the skills that my team needs? And again, whatever that is, whatever selling environment, the number of years that they've been doing it as a training organization, not the number of years that the trainer has been in sales, but the number of years that the training person that's going to be assigned to your account has been a trainer, where they actually have training skills. They're a little different than sales skills. The ability to write course content, the ability to develop a curriculum, the ability to facilitate a classroom setting, those types of things. You want to look at that experience, but most importantly, look at their accomplishments. Ask them, if they've been in business for 5 or 6 years, they should have 30 or 40 or 50 references. They should have a ton of references. You should be able to go on their website and see testimonials, references. Take the time to call. But don't just call the salespeople. Call the actual business owners of these organizations and ask, has this sales training helped you win more sales? Not did your salespeople like it, but did this sales training equate to more revenue? Did it move the needle? Looking at the accomplishments of the sales or training organization is very, very important. And I know I said a mouthful there.
No, and I think it's all very valid information, good questions to ask when evaluating. And you mentioned before the importance of finding a training that aligns with their specific industry or vertical. And what are maybe some of the unintended consequences of picking the wrong provider?
Oh, God. Well, let me just tell you my own mistakes, all right? Our focus at World Leaders is very, very specific. Business to business, technology environment, what we'll call pursuit leading sales management, all that it takes to do that. But many, many times I'll be introduced to different people in the community and someone will ask me, hey, I like what you do. Can you come and see my organization? Let's say it's a car dealer, right? If you look at the difference between a complex B2B technology sales environment, sales cycle, and a car sales cycle, they're so different from each other.
Sure.
Right? So the reality here is the big separation is it business to business sales or is it retail sales? They don't cross so well, right? Everything, they're a lot different. So one of the unintended consequences is you can be a very good trainer, but if they're not training in your environment, it doesn't work. And if you, the company leader, brings in the wrong selling team, your credibility is going to be ruined with your salespeople, right? You're going to infuriate the salespeople. You're going to give them the ammunition to work again, right? They're going to be laughing at that kind of thing. They're going to find the holes, and within 30 minutes they're going to tune out and start going to their cell phones and doing all those things that we don't want them to do.
Right. No, all good things to keep in mind when making a decision. But how about ensuring sustainability? So after the training or during the training, how do we make sure it's sustainable?
Sure. There's some very good ways that good training organizations ensure sustainability. So let's say that if you move away from the traditional passive teaching methods, and if you look on this graphic, that's lecturing, audiovisual, and demos, typical things that you would see in a seminar scenario.
Right.
The sustainability there is less than 30% over time. If you move into participatory teaching methods, now you're looking at getting the group involved in the discussion on that particular topic. You're getting them to do some live practicing with it, some simulations. I don't use the word role play, but it really is a role play. It's simulating the environment, so you're getting them actually, one's playing the customer, one's playing the salesperson, and they're trying it. But the most important one that I particularly like to do is once we go through the concept, and some classes will have 18 concepts, you want to get the participants to teach it to the instructor, not the other way around, right? Good training turns out good teachers, not good students.
Right.
So the whole idea is if they can teach it, if they can stand up and give a 1-minute presentation on the concept, chances, the anxiety they're going to go through to learn that and teach it and get it out there is they're going to be able to do it in the field. And also, if they're not teaching it right, then you ask another participant to give that person help, and that person then stands up and begins teaching it, and a third and a fourth come in. Now you've got some sustainability. So I'll talk about sustainability in the classroom, and that's where I like to see it. The sustainability over time is that any really good training environment should offer audit follow-ups, right? The ability to follow up and audit and work from there. That means retaking the evaluation to see did we move the skill set. That also means allowing that participant to come back to that class at no additional cost. My feeling is that once they've taken that class, they should, for that rest of that year, no one learns everything in the class. They should be able to come back and audit that class at no additional cost to get those skills in. Two good things happen when you do that. Let's say you've got what you'll find is your overperformers will come back to the class many times, and they become then good teachers. So in any good class that's well structured with this invitation to come back, you may have 5 or 6 people, one instructor with 5 or 6 subject matter experts in the field, their field, that are doing this day to day. That's a very good benefit. But also, don't put so much pressure on your sales people to learn it all in one sitting. We use the term progress, not perfection. Let's get some progress out of this class. You can always come back and learn more. So in summary here, 2 kinds of sustainability we're talking about here. One is sustainability that can happen in the classroom that day. And by the way, I recommend classes don't go longer than 1 day. Right? A class that goes over periods of time, you just lose the attention span. So a 1-day class, but getting them to teach back in that class, and then inviting them to come back and bring their experience back into the class, so they can show the new learners and allow them to come back again and again is really good. So think about this. Just take a step back and say, if you're assessing and you're looking for salespeople and you don't put the ones in training that are not coachable or trainable, but the ones that are highly motivated, and you put them through a class that teaches the right things, and they have the sustainability in the class and they can come back, you're really putting yourself on the highest statistical probability of developing your sales force effectively. Just by making sure you're putting the right people in the right classes and there's sustainability in it. That was a long-winded answer.
No, and I think it was great because I know I've taken all 4 classes, and I definitely plan to return to a couple because I've had some time now to implement what I've learned, and I'm looking forward to sharing what worked, what didn't work, and how to perfect it.
Carissa, you're a shining example of what we'd like to see. And I'll just digress for one moment. In this industry today, there's 1.8 million B2B technology salespeople in the field. If you were when you skill rate them, they're roughly at 21% skills required to sell competitively in 2017. That's a horrible statistic. That's a real problem in the B2B field. And that's why you see so many of these companies struggling, not growing, getting beat by global competitors. Many of these global competitors are just better salespeople, right? If you look at how the Chinese and the Indians and the Europeans sell, they've got highly skilled salespeople calling on their customers. So when you look at this scenario, we've got a low skill rate in the country for sales, B2B technology sales, and there's 900,000 unfilled positions. So the reality here is that employers are going to have to recognize that they're going to have to take people like you that have no experience coming in and train them.
Right.
And when they do that, they train them on only the 2017 skills. When on our sales call yesterday, you were better than any of the salespeople we were interviewing, and better than the customer salespeople. You're a top 6% performer in just 1 year by going through really good training and only applying that good training in a controlled environment.
Right.
And that's what we want to see more of.
No, thank you, Joe.
Oh, you bet. It was a pleasure working with you on that.
Thank you so much. Well, actually, that concludes our interview for today. Thank you, Joe, for all of your insight. And feel free to reach out if you would like a copy of the Smart Sales book, if you're interested in learning more about the methodology that all of the training follows.
Sure. And I just want to say, call or email me. You can get to me directly on my cell phone, 585-732-5666. We put these videos out for a reason. We want to talk with our customers. So you're not intruding. If you'd like to email, my email is jbrown@worldleadersales.com. Also, I referenced the Smart Sales Method book earlier in it as the methodology that needs to be in place, the conduit. The book is 1995. That's great. And it's meant to be a how-to of how to get methodology in place. Get the book. Rate the book. Give us a call. If you need help implementing the book, we'll do that on a consultant basis also. But the bottom line is nothing happens until something is sold. And build great sales capability, and you'll be able to drive more revenue, become more prosperous, and also be able to create some great careers for people that work with you. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
And great job.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay, take care, folks. Bye.